Hello, my name is Debbie Boone, and I want to welcome you to my podcast, The Bend, where we explore how successful people navigated the path and emerged in a better place when life threw them an unexpected twist. It's inspired by one of my favorite sayings: the bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the curve. These conversations will hopefully help you and inspire you to embrace your personal bend and to flourish. I hope you enjoy it, and if you need help with your own personal navigation and you're in veterinary medicine, please feel free to reach out to me at Debbie Boone 2 Manage Vets Consulting. Enjoy the bend and be inspired by our wonderful guest. Welcome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of The Bend. Well, today's episode is going to be a little bit different because at the request of a couple of friends, including my social media manager, I have been asked to interview myself on this podcast. So today I'll introduce Debbie Boone, practice management consultant, certified veterinary practice manager, and someone who's been in vet med since 1985 as my own guest. So to tell you a little bit about my origin story, which is usually where I start when I do interviews, is how did I get where I am? And I was one of those kids, just like so many in veterinary medicine, who wanted to be a veterinarian when they were a child. I think I started pretending to doctor on my outdoor cats at the age of 5 or 6, bless the poor cats. But I always grew up with a menagerie. I had dogs, cats, cows, a pony, and I lived in the country, as you can probably guess. So anything and everything was fair game for exploration with kids who lived their childhood roaming around in the woods. But as I got older, I still wanted to be in vet med, so I applied to North Carolina State. It was the only school I applied to. Unfortunately, they let me in. And I got an undergraduate degree in animal science. Now, as the 4 years of school went on, I decided that I had had enough of higher education and I didn't want to go to veterinary school anymore. So I got married instead. I got out into the world. I started managing restaurants for my family, which is how I grew up in the restaurant business. And always laughing and joke that my family believed in child labor, which bothers my mother, but it still is a true fact. We absolutely, my brother and I both grew up working in the public from the time we were small children. Started running restaurants, and then my husband and I moved to a new city, and I thought, well, this is an opportunity for me to get my foot in the door in a veterinary practice. I asked for a job as a part-time receptionist at an animal hospital, and I got it. Now, I worked there for about 6 months at minimum wage, learned a little bit about the profession, was able to use my BS in animal science slightly as the CSR. But then I went on to manage a jewelry department in a large retailer. And one day I sold one of the veterinary associates a watch, and I said, tell Dr. Cobb I said hello. 2 days later, I get a phone call, and it is my former boss, and he says, you need to come over and talk to me because I need a manager. And my wife is really sick of me staying here every night till 10 and 11 o'clock running this business. So I went over and we had a conversation, and I was hired as the hospital administrator for his practice. During that time, my job grew from kind of like a glorified bookkeeper and CSR into actually running the hospital. I made most of the management decisions, especially when it came to marketing. I kept all the payroll and all the books and hired all the staff, did all the discipline. You know, by the time my boss got ready to retire, he didn't even work in the practice. We were running it for him, me and a couple of the associate veterinarians, and it ran by itself. We had a great team, and it ran by itself. So that's sort of how that happened. But I did get an opportunity then to go and work for an even larger hospital, and that came through some networking with the Novartis rep, my friend Rachel Miles. And she introduced me to my next employer, and I took a job as the COO of a very large mixed animal practice group and worked 24 hours a day. We had the shelter for the county. There were satellite locations of this hospital. And it was my first experience with mixed animal work, except for the fact that I had been a horse girl growing up and the vet had come out to our house. So I got the opportunity to actually get in a farm truck and ride around a little bit and learn what mixed animal work looked like. Then 2008, here comes my curveball. The recession hit. And this was really a tough challenge because I was pretty confident when I got laid off from the animal hospital that I would find a job fairly quickly because I knew a lot of people. I had a huge network. People used to call me all the time for advice to manage their hospitals. But then no one was hiring because it was 2008, 2009, and the recession was really crunching down on all professions, not just veterinary medicine. So that was very challenging. But I did have the opportunity to do a couple of unique things. First of all, my husband said, "You've always wanted to do consulting work. You've been doing it kind of as a side gig. Why don't you just do it?" And I said, great, because I had his blessing and that really helped because I had financial support. So I was able to kind of put some materials together and start reaching out to a lot of the sales reps that I had known for many, many years, because at this time I'd been managing hospitals for 23 years. And I started to do some outreach, and I started to do some training and talks for them, some of the lunch and learns. And many of you are very familiar with the lunch and learns. And that's how I got started. But the other thing that had happened was prior to that, I had been doing that little on the side consulting for Novartis Animal Health. And I had met someone whose name was Michelle Garcia Winter. Many of you probably recognize the name because Michelle is the person, along with her boss, Ed Patterson, who created the Patterson University series. And when she found out that I was kind of a free agent, she said, "Don't take a job. I have something I want you to do. I can't tell you what it is yet, but give me another month and a half." And sure enough, that's what it took. And she had me come in, and I started to train all the communication and client service classes for Patterson all over the United States. So it was a huge opportunity. Was it scary to start your own business in the middle of a recession? Yeah, it was, because I had been used to security of a paycheck. I had a lot of autonomy in my practice. My boss, as I said the last time, wasn't even there. And mostly I was turned loose just as long as the practice was profitable, the clients and the staff was happy. We had great compliance and almost no turnover in the staff. I was left alone to do my own thing. So it was almost like owning your and running your own business, which was a great place to be as a manager. I know a lot of times managers are so micromanaged and their skills are prohibited from being used by their practice owners that they are very frustrated. But I was not in that position at all. My boss trusted me and turned me loose to do what I needed to do. But still, it is scary to go out on your own and think, "Oh, I've got to beat the bushes for business." And I think a lot of times, that's the bravery of entrepreneurship. So how did I overcome the fear? Well, I just started doing stuff. Sometimes motion is the best thing that you can do to start doing anything that's new and unusual, is just move into it and work it as you go. It's never perfect. And that's a hard part. Veterinary profession, there's a lot of perfectionism there. I have my own tendency to that. If you ever get an email from me, it will be checked for grammar and spelling at least 3 times before I turn it loose. And if autocorrect fixes something, I'm very upset when it autocorrects it incorrectly. Knowing your profession well and being a constant learner is one of the ways to overcome these challenges and to just kind of be brave and move into it. I first started as a consultant. I knew a lot about operations of the veterinary hospital. I knew how to be a leader just from my own personal experience. And I knew a little bit about human resources, again, from human experience, but I wasn't expert at any of those things to the degree I am now. And that expertise came from a great deal of self-education. So overcoming the fear is done by constantly learning skills. When you become good at what you do, when you are confident in your skill sets, when you feel like you have a lot of value to give to the world, then that helps you overcome the fear of failure. And we all have that fear. So, how did I decide to move forward through this stuff? Well, as I said, in the back of my mind, I already had some groundwork laid. I'd been doing some work on the side with animal health companies, and I had been observing marketing. I had been studying and reading, my whole career, all the veterinary magazines and journals. I always read those. But then when I started consulting, I realized that what I really loved and what I wanted to focus on was teaching communication and hospitality to veterinary teams, because in my experience, I knew that it did a couple of things that were very positive. And that was, it made clients much easier to get along with. And that made working in a veterinary practice a much happier place to be, because clients who were happy, who trusted the people on the team, who got great customer service experiences, were also much more likely to believe and trust the teams when they said, this is the things that your pet needs to be healthy. And they would say yes, and they would be compliant. And then that made our lives better because our animals were all healthy. We got to the point there at one point in time, way into my career, that our caseload was kind of boring because it was, we laughingly called it old fat dogs and renal failure cats, because our clients were compliant on flea preventative, heartworm preventative, vaccinations. So we didn't see parvo, and we didn't see fleas, and we didn't see a lot of the problems that, all of this unvaccinated population would bring into the practice. So I think that work towards learning constantly, but then you've got to narrow it down to what it is that you are passionate about. Can I do math? Yeah, I can do math. I can look at P&Ls. I can look at your inventory and help you control those things. But that's not the thing that I am passionate about in my work. What I want most of all is to teach people how to be great communicators, so that they have great cultures in their team. And so that when they work with clients, those clients have a wonderful experience in the hospital, and the pets get a great experience because the clients are then educated and they become great pet owners, which is the goal, right? We want our patients to be great. Now, is there a decision-making process? Sure. So when I'm sitting here thinking about, oh, am I going to start this business? Obviously, you have to have tools in place. So buying a laptop, getting the software that's appropriate, that you can make PowerPoints, learning how to do all those things, learning how to be a better writer was really important to me. And then the other part of this, the network that you build. I had always had a good relationship with my sales reps who would come and visit in the hospital, and they remembered that. So when I did come out and I said, okay, guess what? I'm starting a business, I was able to reach out to those people, and they said, yeah, we remember, what you did to help get us in front of your practice owner. We remember that you listened to us, and when we presented our materials, and you were respectful to us. So sure, we're going to put you to work. And they did. They absolutely did. I have certainly been blessed and still have connections with many of my sales reps, and they have pulled me into multiple consultations and given me opportunities that I would not have even known were out there and available in the world. So eternally grateful for them to help me get started. I've often thought about, my biggest career mistake, and maybe one of the mistakes I made was being too comfortable because in my first practice, I was there for 19 years and I was extremely happy working there. I had a wonderful team. My boss, like I said, was pretty hands off. We had a good culture. We had a great clientele. I miss some of them today, and I still am on Facebook friends with some of my clients, and I've been out of that practice since 2005. But maybe I stayed too long because when I did move on to another practice and then move on into consulting, I feel like I should have started it all earlier and taken the chance earlier to build the career that I have today, because I really do love it so much. And I do feel like a lot of the work that I do makes a huge difference in the lives of veterinary teams and giving them better lives and helping them have good work cultures in their hospitals. Looking at things now from this kind of long lens of being in veterinary medicine for over 30 years, I think take chances earlier and determine what your goals are. And you don't have to have these goals posted in a post-it note in front of you so that every day you're kind of driven in going, have I met my goal today? I don't live like that. I kind of put long-term goals in the back of my mind and work towards saying yes to things that will get me towards that goal. At this point in my career, I'm very interested in writing. And so taking the opportunities that people have given me to write articles and then to make connections with editors and other people who have connections with the people who publish magazines has been part of a strategy for me because I do enjoy writing a lot. And then another goal for me is to do more public speaking as a keynote, because I feel like I want the messages that I've learned over all these years. I would love to teach these things to younger people in the profession who are struggling. And this is truly one of the reasons that I started the Bend podcast, because I saw so many people struggling with the uncertainty of the pandemic and the economic challenges, and then social unrest, and then, Lord, the war in Ukraine starts. And it's like we've just been hammered by one big thing after the other in life. What I wanted people to know was most people just move through that stuff, that you just put one foot in front of the other. And when you look back, you find that all of those things that were really hard times that you went through are learning experiences, and they're kind of putting you through the pressure that makes a diamond. As many of you know, my father committed suicide when I was 16. I've had breast cancer. I've lost a job that was paying a significant salary in the middle of the greatest recession, or second greatest recession our country has experienced. And looking back on all those things, I can say that I learned something from each one of them. And I learned that life goes on, that you just keep moving through it. And you move through it with an attitude that, this passes and I can make it better. And it's all about being grateful for what you do have and what you are surrounded by, even if it's just walking out, sitting in the backyard and looking up at a beautiful day and going, oh man, this is how wonderful is this, just to appreciate that. Networking has been an important aspect of my career growth. And I truly am one of those people who loves animals, but loves people as much as I love animals. I am fascinated with human beings and what they do for a living and how they think. And I think that when you are truly interested in people, they feel that. And there's an energy that you put out that says you're important to me. So I like people, and I like to meet people, and I like to learn about people. And I laughingly say, yes, I'm one of those people who talks to people on the airplane. There's some opportunities to meet amazing people out there in the world. And, we look at a lot of the bad things that are happening right now and how poorly behaved a lot of people are in the world, but I still know that that's a very, very small percentage of people, that most people are good. Most people have positive intent. Most people are just doing the best they can every single day to get through life, kind of with some positive results. And when we look at humanity that way, then we are much more accepting of people where they are. And if we do maybe want to enlighten people or maybe have them enlighten us, the best thing that we can do is ask some good questions and be a good listener and stay out of judgment, because judgment is off-putting. Judgment shuts people down. And even the most bigoted, biased, horrible people, somewhere along the line, maybe that was a cultural thing. Maybe they grew up in that atmosphere. You don't know. But until you're able to have conversations with people and shine some light and have a good open conversation with people, then nobody ever gets any better. Nothing ever changes. It's kind of a sad state of affairs that we have to look at even a simple thing as a political opponent as evil, when all they are is just a political opponent who wants to fix the government or fix our world in a different way than his political rival does. Just see things differently. But the truth lies somewhere in the middle, and that's what I've always found. And so through listening and having conversations that are open-hearted, we get to find middle ground, and we're both happier there than being rabidly right or left. What advice would I give somebody who's facing a big career decision? Is to be prepared, for one thing. The advantage of having a financial cushion cannot be overemphasized. Knowing that you have a good credit score. You don't have to have a lot of money to have a good credit score. You just have to live within your means and pay attention to your budget. But that having a good credit score means that you can leverage that if you need to borrow some money to have a career opportunity. Then you've laid the groundwork for it in your credit. Get to know people. Talk to people who are doing things that you're interested in, that you are impressed by, and find out how they do that. People are very generous in talking to you and sharing if they feel you're truly interested in them, not for your own benefit specifically, but just because you find that what they've done is interesting and amazing. And don't be afraid. Fear is our biggest detriment to success. We're so afraid of taking a chance or looking bad or what other people think of us. And the truth of the matter is, people don't think about you very much at all. They spend the majority of the time thinking about themselves. So if there's something out there that you want to do that you think the world needs, then you go for it. But you lay the groundwork and you do the research, and you just, one of the things I did was grow up in the restaurant business, and 60% of new restaurants fail. And they generally fail because people who just like food and like to cook think, oh, great, I'll go and I'll cook and I'll own a restaurant. But there's an art to running a restaurant well, because if you consider the fact that most of your inventory has a very short shelf life, and you better know how to manage that. Otherwise, you're going to be in the hole fairly quickly. These are important things to learn. So you've got to take the time to educate yourself about the business of the business that you're interested in, but do things that you feel are valuable and important to the world, not just to you, but you feel like the world needs that better mousetrap, because chances are good you're right. And it may not be unique, but it doesn't have to be. It can just be a little different, a little better, or tell a different story than the people who came before you. So a fun fact about me that you may not know is I do like to sing. we laugh only. My name is Debbie Boone, and one of the challenges of my social media is to overcome Debbie Boone, who is Pat Boone's daughter, the singer, back from the only one hit wonder I think she had was You Light Up My Life, which was popular in 1978. But I do like to sing. And one of my favorite songs ever is called Unchained Melody. It's by the Righteous Brothers. And something you might be surprised to know about me. That's kind of hard. I'm kind of an open book when it comes to my life and what I like and what I do out there in the world. But maybe you don't know that when I was growing up, I used to be a horse girl, and I rode saddlebreds. Now, I never showed horses; I just rode them for pleasure. But I did. I was a horse person in my youth and during college. Any final words of wisdom is what I typically ask my interviewees. And I know that you guys know my favorite book ever is called Crucial Conversations. I think that one is a red letter book. But in today's society where everyone is so fractious, I think this book called The Language of Trust is one that we all should pay attention to. And truthfully, if I had to think about a favorite quote, Mother Teresa has a quote that says, "Let no one come to you without leaving better and happier." And I think if that can accomplish that, whether I'm writing or talking or serving people in a veterinary hospital, that will be a goal in life for me, is letting people walk away and feeling that they've had a positive experience. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Bend and learning a little bit about my history and how I got to be a consultant in veterinary medicine, and how I focused on client communication and culture in practice, because I do believe that that is the key to the kingdom. Our clients do not judge us on medicine. Our clients judge us on how much they can trust us, how much we care, and how much we can talk to them in a language that they understand. So thanks for spending a little time with me today on The Bend. I promise that my next episode, I will have a guest again and interview some more of the luminaries of veterinary medicine. Have a great day.